aerospace and defense manufacturing,
machines and automation,
additive manufacturing,
smart manufacturing,
global manufacturing economy.
Welcome to Advanced Manufacturing Now, the podcast for manufacturing professionals, powered by SME. From the design screen to the shop floor to final assembly, we drive the conversation about making manufacturing smarter by connecting people who are passionate about manufacturing.
Hello and welcome to Advanced Manufacturing Now, the podcast for manufacturing professionals. Make sure to like and subscribe to get new episodes delivered to your feed each week. And I'm Amy Bryson, contributing lead editor of Smart Manufacturing Magazine, and I'm joined by SME Media editor-in-chief Steve Plum and contributing editor Kip Hansen to talk about the April issue of Smart Manufacturing Magazine. Welcome, gentlemen.
Glad to be here. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. So the April issue of Smart is really all about diving into the value of learning and innovation across manufacturing. And it covers everything from school curriculum and programs that lift up next generation leaders to reskilling and technology tools that transform legacy ways of doing things. And it's really about revealing new paths to solve tough challenges. And the cover story is a good example of one of those challenges, and certainly a big conversation right now in manufacturing, and that is workforce development. Now, Steve, what are your thoughts on that topic and the cover story generally?
Well, I thought it played in well with the other stories, especially AI and the advances in metrology that Kip wrote. Just the importance of attracting the next generation into these fields, as we refer to them as STEM, and always a great focus of SME through the Education Foundation and Tooling U SME to attract high school students into technology related careers. And one of our longtime contributors, Eileen Wolf, wrote the story on STEM here. And it's always kind of a good news, bad news situation, because there's that ongoing industry-wide shortage of skilled workers. I forget what the latest is on that, but hundreds of thousands of shortage of people in manufacturing, and the jobs availability, only half of the million or so people that are needed are those jobs are going to be filled unless we attract more people into it. And as technology advances, it's becoming increasingly important to have people that are science, math, engineering, that type of skill set. So, on the plus side, there has been some progress recently. I think Eileen quoted in her story that the National Science Foundation reported that women and minorities have begun entering STEM more so in the past decade and earning degrees in these fields. And, this has been, a vastly underrepresented group in the past. And it was great to see that one of the people that she interviewed was Kara Branch, who I first talked to a couple of years ago. And, Kara came from just outside of Houston, a working class family, and didn't really have a good role model. She always, excelled at school, but because she didn't have any role models to look up to, she kind of dropped out of that thinking that she could go into that area until she got to high school and met with, I think it was a chemistry teacher that she had that really helped push her into STEM. And she went on to college and became very successful in the early stages of her career. And at that point, decided to give back and started her own nonprofit organization, Black Girls Do Engineer, which is based out of Houston, and does amazing work. I think since she started, she's already helped 5,000 young women and girls and college students ages 6 to 21, and on top, and including her own children. She has two little girls, and help encourage them into that field and show them what's possible. And one of the things that she mentions is, you have to make it fun too. We not only provide that role model, but so one of the programs she had was a solar oven and creating models for sustainable cities. It's just so important to be that mentor, and that's one of the things that the Education Foundation has as a mentor-mentee program, and just amazing work that she's doing. And really look forward to seeing more from that in the future.
Yeah, planting those seeds, and as you mentioned, making the curriculum fun and immersive so that students, especially girls in the underserved communities as well, can really engage in and kind of demystify what a career in STEM engineering and certainly manufacturing can offer them in the future.
And on the national defense side, I think that Eileen noted that the Department of Defense is looking for 100,000 STEM professionals, in coming years.
Yeah, and there's some really cool curriculum to help students kind of figure out what that kind of a journey would look like. So it was nice to see some of those programs. So make sure to check out that story. And then if you move over to the technology side of things, I know, Kip, your story, Light 'em Up, really talks about two types of scanning solutions that are taking over traditional inspection tools. Can you give our listeners a few more insights about your story there?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks. And that's actually Steve's comments are actually a good segue in a way to the technology side, because it illustrates that companies need to do more with less when they can't get employees. And so, like you said, the story focuses on laser scanners and structured light systems, but then also ties in heavily to the digital twin, which, is only, about 10 or 15 years old now. So I spoke with people from Zeiss and also Hexagon's manufacturing intelligence. The story kind of starts out with little metrology history and then moves into lasers, which lasers have been around actually longer than pretty much everyone on this call has been alive, except for maybe Steve. But
thanks, Gab.
yeah. So, I was really intrigued with what I heard, especially about the laser-based systems, because they're handheld. You can carry them around the shop. You can use them to create digital twins of tooling and so on. But also they're playing an increasingly important role in the inspection room as well, because as anyone who's programmed a CMM knows, it takes a long time to pick up all the points, and especially if you're doing like a 3D surface, whereas you can take a laser scanner or even a structured light scanner and check the part and pick up, create a point cloud within a minute or two without any programming or anything. And then because the software is so powerful, it allows you to stitch together these different images, and maybe you've got to scan the part from a couple different directions, but the point is you can build this 3D model of the part basically, and then compare that as built model to the as design model and find any discrepancies. And the software that I think there's a couple screenshots in the article showing how kind of a heat map of where there's any discrepancies between the two images. And it's a really powerful tool. I mean, I also referenced a couple of case studies. Zeiss talked about how automakers are using this to, they've got a body in white that they're inspecting, but maybe they don't have the door panels for it yet. But they can reach out to their supplier, in the next state over, and have them, upload the images of the door panel to the cloud, and then they can download those into the body in white and compare the two, and kind of see how everything fits together, and maybe based on that, go back to the supplier and say, hey, yeah, you got a little mismatch here on the right-hand side. And, it eliminates a lot of shipping parts back and forth and a lot of lost time and so on. And at the same time, it decreases lead time of the product. So it's a win all the way around. In that same vein, Hexagon talked about how they've got a hydropower company that is using it to, using handheld scanners to actually go into the field and reverse engineer components that maybe they don't have drawings for and so on. And again, saves them a ton of time. What else? And there was also a story in there from Orchid Orthopedics that talks about what we mentioned at the outset, that maybe you don't have skilled operators to program your CMMs, and the laser scanning and white light scanning is a lot easier to use. You just basically like point and click, and the software takes over from there. So not only saves time, but reduces reliance somewhat on the operators that we can't find.
Is it even recognizable from the time when you were back on the shop floor, Kip?
No, I mean, we didn't even have CMMs when we got our first CMM when I was about 5 or 6 years into it. And yeah, it's totally changed. And now, I mean, to that point, a lot of companies are offering scanning heads to put on the CMMs. So again, combining these two technologies to really save time.
Yeah, and something I'd argue maybe that you also didn't have on the shop floor back in the day, Kip, was AI. So we also talk about some other relevant use cases in a story by Karen Haywood Queen, and it is about how AI has an impact on supply chain resiliency, which is a big conversation as well right now. And that story looks at machine learning and AI and helping manufacturers, navigate this complex and competitive global market. And because supply chains are truly economies, geopolitical shifts like wars, tariffs, taxation, regulatory changes, they really do drive ripple effects. And it's important for manufacturers to try to mitigate the impact of these ripples with insightful decision making. And she talks about, a lot of things that are related to supply chain that we've heard before, but she also gives an example from an expert who talks about machine learning models being able to help when you're talking about product launch strategy for a product that you're manufacturing. So there's an example of a cosmetics manufacturer who was planning to launch a product in the Southeast United States. And they're planning a September launch, but due to some machine learning models, they decided to delay the launch. It was a hydration product because in September there was supposed to be high humidity and rain forecast for September. So they decided to shift their strategy and move that regional launch to November when drier conditions were expected. So it was interesting to show how better analytical forecasting also makes the work of deciding on things like advertising and pricing and positioning more precise. So I thought that was really a cool pivot for that. And speaking of AI, this issue's Manufacturing USA update, it features the ARM Institute. Now, the ARM's been around for 8 years, and it's, has a lot of the body of work in robotics, AI, and workforce development. And the Institute has more than 450 member organizations, and they really collaborate on new ways to achieve what they call a future where people and robots work together to solve problems. They have partnerships across industry, government, and academia. And really at the heart of what they're doing is, strengthening U.S. competitiveness through innovations in advanced manufacturing technology, particularly robotics and AI. But as importantly, I would say 50% of, their energy and passion is around how they help prepare people to work alongside advanced technologies. And there's a cool sidebar in that story that people should check out. And it focuses on an online resource, or really, I would call it a hub, and that's roboticscareer.org. And this site serves as a centralized location and resource for education seekers and providers, as well as, job hunters and employers, and it connects them on all things related to robotics training and career opportunities. So that's a really cool site that people should check out to further both their education and advance potential job opportunities. So certainly lots to enjoy in the April issue of Smart Manufacturing Magazine.
Yeah, it's interesting that with the advent of AI that we're still talking about weather, but at least in this case they're doing something about it, or at least preparing better for weather.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So looking ahead at June, you'll be able to, read some more things from Kip, certainly. So stay tuned for some more information about that. And Steve and Kip, it's always a pleasure to speak with you both. And I want to thank our listeners for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast feed to stay up to date about what's happening in advanced manufacturing. And also, you'll find a host of resources by visiting us at advancedmanufacturing.org. Take care, everybody.